Welcome back. We're going to move into our last kind of topic for the semester, which is going to be the reproductive systems and pregnancy and development of the body. So, the reproductive systems are in some ways kind of standalone in that they are not really involved in maintaining homeostasis. Unlike the majority of our systems, they don't function continuously through the life. They are going to be fairly active during fetal development. They'll go dormant between birth and puberty. They wake up at puberty and then begin to function. And then if you're a male, it continues to function. And if you are a female, then you have a point where the reproductive systems stop functioning. So definitely different than what we've looked at so far. So the primary sex organs are the organs that produce the gametes and release the hormones. So in the male, we're talking about the testes. They're going to produce the gametes called sperm. And in the females, we're talking about the ovaries, which are going to produce the ova, or what are more commonly known as eggs. These two systems are designed to make babies. That is why they exist. And so we'll see evidence of that as we go through the systems. In terms of that sort of end goal of these systems, they are very equal partners in terms of fertilization. At that point, the female's body is going to take over and is going to continue on with the pregnancy, birth, and then nourishment of the infant. So before we jump into these systems, let's talk a little bit about sex determination and the process of becoming male and female. So humans are what is termed chromosomally sex determined, meaning that our sex is based on the set of chromosomes that we receive. It is absolutely not the only way to do this. There are reptiles that are going to be sex determined by the temperature at which the eggs incubate. There are different types of weird little sea worms that change their sex depending on what they land on the seafloor. So if they land on the actual floor of the sea, the ocean, then they become female. But if they land on a female, they become male. So, I mean, there's a whole bunch of different ways of doing it. We do it in terms of a chromosome. I tend to think that the better terminology for this would be genetically sex determined as opposed to chromosomally, and I will get into that in a moment. So humans have two what are termed sex chromosomes. So we have 23 chromosomes in our set, and then we get one from each parent, so a grand total of 46 chromosomes. Chromosomes 1 through 22 are called autosomes, and then the last set, the 23rd pair, are your sex chromosomes. Everyone has an X chromosome. So it is the larger of the two, and it contains vital genes that have nothing to do with sex. So everyone has to have at least one X chromosome to survive. The Y chromosome is much smaller, and it contains what's called the SRY gene. Technically, it is not the presence or absence of the Y chromosome that is going to cause human development to kind of take a left turn into maleness. It is the SRY gene. The normal location of that gene is on the Y chromosome. And so that is why we tend to say that humans are chromosomally sex determined. However, if you have a Y chromosome with a mutated copy of the SRY gene, it's not going to work. That person's going to end up developing into a female. If the SRY gene breaks off of a Y chromosome and gets stuck to another one, then that person is going to develop into a male. So it's not the presence or absence of the entire Y chromosome, it's the presence or absence of a functioning copy of the SRY gene that's found on the Y chromosome. That is why I feel like it would be a better terminology to say that we are genetically sex determined as opposed to chromosomally. Generally speaking, in most cases, XX, so each egg is X, and then each sperm can either be carrying a copy of the X or a copy of the Y. So if the sperm is carrying an X, then we have XX, and that would equal female. If the sperm is carrying a Y chromosome, then it would be XY, and that would be a male. Like I said, 99.9% of the time, that is absolutely what happens. However, it is worth noting that there can be issues that occur, non-disjunction issues where chromosomes don't come apart properly, or issues with non-functioning SRY genes or SRY genes getting stuck to another chromosome. These things do exist, so it is worth noting that. Okay, so we are going to start off with the ductwork to become both male and female. So we're looking at about 5 to 6 weeks, and we can see that we've got our little rudimentary kidneys here, gonadal ridges that will eventually become the gonads, and then 2 sets of ducts. We've got the mesonephric ducts, which are indicated in green, and the paramesonephric ducts, which are indicated in purple. So we have ductwork to become male and female. Mesonephric are going to be male, paramesonephric are going to be female. In the presence of a functioning copy of the SRY gene, the mesonephric ducts are going to develop and the paramesonephric ducts are going to degrade, and that is going to take us into the formation of the male internal reproductive structures. In the absence of an SRY gene, the default pathway in humans is for the paramesonephric ducts to develop and the mesonephric ducts to disintegrate. So default pathway in human beings is female. You have to have something happen to become male. And what happens is testosterone, and that comes from the SRY gene. In addition to having both sets of ducts internally, we have homologous structures in the external genitalia that is going to, in most cases, follow the pattern of development that's occurring internally. So here we have 3 different structures. We have a genital tubercle in yellow, the urogenital folds in pink, and then the labioscrotal folds in blue. And so as you're going along development, you get to the point where, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks along, you begin to differentiate into one of the 2 sexes, then these will eventually follow suit in that pathway. So again, for males, the internal structures are going to develop in response to that SRY gene. There's going to be testosterone, and that's going to dictate this pathway. So the genital tubercle is going to become the glans penis. The urogenital fold is going to basically become the spongy urethra. And then the labioscrotal folds are going to fuse to form the scrotum and the sort of outer surface of the penis here. So there's actually a seam that runs down the backside of the male genitalia that indicates where all of these different structures fused together. In the absence of the SRY gene and the testosterone, we've got the default pathway is going to be female. So the genital tubercle will develop into the glans clitoris. The urogenital folds are going to develop into the labia minora and basically form the area that is going to eventually be called the vestibule. It's going to have the urethral orifice and the vaginal orifice in it. And then you've got the labioscrotal folds that are going to form the labia majora. So we have these homologous structures, and we are going to see them follow the pathway of development that occurs internally in most cases. Now, the gonads are sort of occurring and developing way up sort of on the back. So particularly the testes that have to move all the way out into the scrotum are going to need a pathway to get there. So as the testes are developing, they are going to be guided by this piece of connective tissue called the gubernaculum. And that is going to help actually guide them through the inguinal canal. And it's what is going to sort of pinch off this piece of the peritoneal cavity here and draw the muscles down that are going to elevate and depress the testes. All of that is going to kind of get dragged along as the gubernaculum shortens and eventually ends up pulling everything down into the scrotum. Now, the ovaries also descend, however, they're not going to go as far. They're going to get caught in what's called the broad ligament as they come down around the forming pelvis.